Hello and welcome to Bosch DIY Live. I'm Chris.
And I'm Danny.
So, this is not the usual live stream that we do, is it?
No, certainly not. It's a little bit more of a surprise for us this time.
Yeah, so all we know at this stage is we're in a completely new location, lots of space. We have some lovely DIY tools just behind Danny there, but at the moment we're not quite sure what we are going to be doing for this live stream. However, I do see a gentleman. Thank you very much. Ooh. Like the Oscars.
So very familiar. Very familiar.
All right, so dear Chris and Dan, this needs fixing.
Okay.
What the hell's that? Wow,
Well, there you go.
you've outdone yourself.
Yeah.
All right, so in this live stream, we are going to have a crack at doing at least part of the restoration process on what appears to be some form of table.
Yes, we have a dual leaf table by the looks of it. So.
Right, so if you are joining us live, or if you are going to be watching after this live stream has already gone out, what I think we're going to be doing, because I don't think you want to watch us do a complete restoration of whatever this is, but I think what we'll do first stage is we'll assess the condition of it, and then we'll see what we can do in the very short period of time we've got.
Exactly. Okay. I mean, from looking at the top of the table, I can see there's a fair few watermarks there. So notoriously difficult to get out when it comes to sanding. However, we'll ascertain how far we can take it down, and if need be, we can always paint it afterwards. At the end of the day, we're going to make it presentable and usable again. That's
right, yeah. So obviously this will not necessarily involve purely power tools. I think what we might do first off is, I already know that we're probably going to be using sanders.
Yep.
Maybe we'll be having to dismantle this as well to a certain degree.
Usually you do that first, yeah.
Depends if you're lazy or not. We've got a couple of options. I mean, looking at it, Danny points out, it's got some water damage. I mean, this particular one has got quite a lot of...
There's a large crack across this side here. So,
and you've got some holes
There's
here
a hole
as well.
there, yeah.
So we can make a decision about this, and this will be something that we are going to cover today. We're not saying this is how you have to do it.
No.
We're going to do some suggestions, and again, if you are restoring something or if you are modifying something, feel free. Feel free to be as creative as you want to be.
Exactly.
We'll come back to this one. I might not want to actually try and restore this, and maybe we'll do something slightly different.
Yeah, I mean, we can always turn it into, whatever, maybe a hall table or something like that.
Let's have a quick look, see if it functions still. I mean, seems to be all right.
Quite stable as well, not bad.
I'm going to bring out the easy spirit level.
All right, okay.
Let's assess whether or
you are assuming that the floor's level as well.
Well, we'll find out. It's seen better days, but...
Well, the centre section is pretty level.
So I think we could keep that, to be honest. I can see already when I'm looking underneath the table that whoever owned this before has made a few modifications to try and make it a little level.
That as well.
But otherwise, where should we go from here, Dan?
I think if we're going to do a bit of sanding on top, I reckon we should take this apart first off. We'll get the leaves off the side of it and then ascertain what it's like from underneath when we get it stripped down.
So if you are watching live, feel free to pop in the comments what you would potentially do to a table like this. If you aren't watching live, then feel free to say what you expected us to have done. What we might do, I don't know, Danny, do you fancy if we do a little bit of work on this, show the viewers out there how we would start the process?
Yep.
And then maybe we could revisit this at a later date and show what we did later.
Exactly, yeah. Give me a little project afterwards as well, finish it off for you, and obviously put up maybe a follow-up video to show you how it went.
I mean, it's a nice table. First thing we obviously want to assess is what material it's made out of. It's I think we know this is already going to be a hardwood, probably an oak.
Yeah, it could be an oak table. Yeah, makes sense for it to be oak. It's
now that gives.
It's got some age to it.
That's right. Yeah. So the last thing I'd want to do is cover this in paint personally. So I think the first thing I want to do is see if we can bring it back down to the wood.
Yep.
And see where we can go from there. Yeah. But as you point out, first thing we'll do is we'll assess it by dismantling it.
Yeah, I think the worst part is obviously clearly the centre section here. So I think that's where the majority. We'll see where we can go from there.
Okay, right. So I'm going to go grab the little plinth. So what we can do is we can bring it up a little higher, and then we can show you exactly what we're doing on the underside of the table to help disassemble it. Yeah,
we'll turn it upside down and see what we're working with.
Right.
There you go.
Good.
Just about. There you go. There you go.
Now, obviously, if you're working at home, you might have a nice little space that you're able to work in, a small garage space. You'll be able to work, you don't have to be trying to present everything to camera, so you can work comfortably and safely. When we do our work, we're obviously going to use some PPE. That will include things like our safety glasses. And we'll also be using things like dust masks, and we'll also be using some dust extraction. That'll obviously depend on what you have available on your side. Okay, right, that's nice and stable.
Good.
So the first thing we want to have a look is assess the condition of the wood. As we said, this surface this is the better of the two leaves.
Yes.
So this will probably be the one we at least try and save.
I think so.
What we could do is, if we take this one off first, and then maybe we'll have a look at dismantling the other leaf and have a look at that in a closer condition.
Yeah.
See whether or not that's something that we could fix, or maybe make a decision whether or not we abandon it entirely and do something completely different. So let's have a look. We got some friendly spiders, some
Cobwebs.
dead spiders. And we've got slotted screws, so we can tell this is an old piece of kit.
We actually have a loose bit of timber over here as well.
This one's okay.
This one needs to be clamped a little bit.
Now, so primarily I think most people will say, hey, it would be nice to bring this right back down to the timber and then start from there. Now, we've got quite a few options. We have...
Well, there's many options when it comes to stripping timber. If you have a local like door stripper or something like that, where they can actually dip the timber and clean it for you. However, we're all about saving a little bit of money here, so sanding would be the next option. And obviously it gets you can then see the process as you go through it and decide when you want to stop or whether you want to abandon your current plans and move to something different. So it gives you options all the way.
Right, so the first phase is a bit of a dismantlement phase. We're going to dismantle this leaf from the main desk. Now, obviously, there are plenty of options. I've got a really nice, vast array of hand tools to one side, and obviously, you could just use a slotted screwdriver. However, we've got some handy little helpers to make this a lot easier for us.
We do, yeah.
Now, the obvious option would be something like an IXO.
We've got some choices, haven't we?
Well, I mean, here I do. Either something like our IXO, which is our 3.6 volt electrical screwdriver. I've got our PSR Select. Now this is a nice little tool that I definitely want to talk about in a little bit more detail. And one of the advantages is the fact that you have a little cylinder at the bottom here that allows you to select a wide range of different screwdriver bits. It's got a little window on the top there that allows you to see exactly which one you want, and then slide that forward, and then you've got the screwdriver bit. Luckily, I think that's the one that will fit.
You gambled and got the right one then, didn't you?
Oh, I think I know what I'm doing. Okay, right. It's got a little light on it as well. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to dismantle this. I'll pass that to you, Dan. Might as well use the PSR Select. I'll keep that to one side. All right.
Yep, set that to undo. Pop that in there.
So I didn't lock it for you.
You didn't lock it. That was a dirty trick there.
What do I do here?
Hang on. Try and get that lined up. Oh, I think you've done me here. You've got the wrong screwdriver bit.
No, surely not.
No, it's the wrong one.
All right, so while Dan's doing that, I'll get the IXO on my side and I'll start removing my side. Now, let's have a look.
There you go.
What we've got is we've got our star guest today. We've got Rebecca on our roaming cam. So maybe Rebecca can come in and have a look in close detail what Danny's doing here.
There you go.
Yep, so...
Just trying to index that with a rather worn out screw.
Well, they are tiny and in pretty poor condition.
Yes, I think you'll find that this table, by the looks of it, probably about 60-year-old. I reckon it's probably just post Second World War, so it's seen a cup of tea or two.
Yep. All right. Now I'll remove these middle ones. As you can see, I'm using upside down. The best thing about all of these tools is they're nice and ergonomic, so you can use them in all manner of orientations without feeling like you're out of control. One thing I'm also doing is I'm not actually using my trigger finger, because again, it's very nice and ergonomic, got a lot of control, and also you can see that the clearance is it's not as nice as it could be. We're not working in ideal conditions here, of course. Luckily the screws are nice and loose. I mean, I'd love to replace them, but I think we'll make do with what we've got.
I think they're working perfectly as they are.
Okay, just going to adjust that a little bit. Last one, I think.
Remember, there's also an attachment you can get for that as well, so you can adjust the torque settings. So again, when it comes to tightening up, fold that forward a bit. There you
Okay,
go.
all right, so let's
There you go, that's the good one.
we'll put that to one side for the moment.
I'll keep the screws safe and sound as well.
Yes, that's something I often do wrong.
Have you got the IXO for a second?
Yeah, sure.
Just one thing I wanted to cover with that as well. Now, we do have some people who buy the IXO and they have a little bit of trouble operating it because they assume that you hold it like this. So sometimes people with maybe larger hands can knock the button, the forward reverse button, with their finger there. It gets a bit frustrating after a while. However, if you hold it like that, with your finger down the side and your thumb down the other side, that leaves your other two fingers just underneath there to operate the trigger. And you'll be surprised, as soon as you tell people that better way of holding it, completely changes the machine for them. So it's so much better if you hold it like that.
Yeah, that's what I was already doing automatically.
Yeah.
Because obviously I'm very familiar with the tool, but even if I wasn't, that's what naturally feels good in the hand.
If you can get your whole hand on that tiny handle, then all power to you. But usually that's a little bit too small for most people's hands. So just like that.
Right, so we've got a couple of options here. So that leaf's good. Maybe what we could do, Dan, is we could flip it over
Yep.
and have a look at the other leaf and see whether or not that is worth keeping. Maybe we're going to remove that entirely.
Yep, I think so. I'll have a look at that.
All right, let's just lift it up. Because I don't know if you can see on camera,
Yeah.
but we've got a very substantial crack right through the middle there that comes all the way to
Yeah.
here. And also, I think there's another one here. Is it on
Yeah,
the same?
they've actually cracked on the individual boards that it's constructed from here. So there's a couple of options. You could use a guide rail saw, which we have on the table behind us. You can cut that straight down that line, then re-glue it, maybe
Yep.
with some dowels in it to strengthen it up. And you'd have to do the same on the top here. However, that's quite a lot of work. And if you were restoring it and you wanted wood finish or perfect wood finish, then that would be how you would go about doing that.
I mean, the one thing you'd have to do, obviously you can see that there's a support here. So if you were to attempt to glue and clamp,
Yep.
then we could just take out these 4 screws and that'll allow us to compress it, right?
I've got a feeling if you took those 4 screws out now, it would probably just fall into 3 planks.
Give you a good option then if you wanted to, then you could drill and dowel it, as you said, and
Yeah.
put it back together again. So we won't take this out. In fact, instead of trying to restore this, because there is another option we could do. Now this is probably a bit more advanced, but it could be something that might interest some of you guys out there.
I think we have another problem here as well, to be
Yes,
fair.
this side doesn't look like it's doing very well actually.
Yeah.
Because I was going to say, what we could do, if we wanted to repair this leaf, is if we could find something of a similar material, or the right material, a similar look, patina, then maybe we could actually cut a new one. Obviously, you could use something, if you're very skilled, you could attempt to do it with a jigsaw. However, Danny would recommend probably using like a router.
A router would be perfect for this with a template guide. So you'd use the actual tabletop as a template and recut a piece of timber to fit this perfectly. And then obviously you could use a router again to profile the edge to exactly replicate what you have on the other side. So.
However, you've already made the point that actually there's a lot of work to do on this side.
Yeah,
And
you can see from down here where someone's added a couple of extra little pieces of wood there, that it's still not quite enough wood to avoid that slack at the bottom there. I think you've got, by the looks of it, a dowel that runs through there. How do you feel about cutting that off through there and then removing this and that side?
as I said, we weren't necessarily wanting to completely restore this. We thought that take the option that we could change it in a certain way to make it more usable. And I think you already discussed, you said to me just a moment ago, how about we make it a one-sided table?
Yeah, that's what I was
So
thinking.
what should we do anyway? Let's put the
Yeah,
sake of it.
the other thing it does leave us
Yes,
with,
yes.
obviously, we've got this cutout hole on this side where this leg sits in. However, we'll have plenty of matching timber to cut down a section and put that in there.
Which we could do, right.
Yeah.
So either way, we need to, let's remove this other leaf as well.
Yep.
And then we can assess the main part of the table.
Yes.
All right, so for simplicity, I might as well just take it off in this orientation.
Yep.
Again, we're going to use our IXO and our PSR Select.
Yep.
Just to remove it from the main table.
Actually, a bit easier like this. It's,
You're going to have to see the top of my head, I'm afraid.
Yeah. Not too fast, not too slow. This is a great little machine. Very comfortable.
All right, So I feel the need that I need to entertain while doing this, but this is something that if you were at home, then ultimately you would be probably listening to the radio. Or you'll be making yourself a nice cup of tea to keep you going. We don't have either of those, but we do have a few options.
Yeah, we do.
We have. I'll go get it. I'll let Dan do that for the moment.
Oh, he's left me with the difficult ones.
No, not at all. So, nice little options for the range. Keep us a little entertained, because we often say that, what's the most important piece of tooling and most important equipment that you can be running with? Well, I would automatically think something like the universal speaker would be a really good option, because I don't want to do any work unless I've got some tunes, of course. One of the good advantages of the universal speaker is the fact that you can combine multiples of these together. So I've got these ones still today. Yeah, multiples of these speakers together, and then you can have stereo sound by just having one of these connected to your device, and then you link them by multi-speaker sound. That's a really nice little feature we've got. Yeah. Right, well, thanks for that, Dan.
What if you're feeling a bit sleepy?
Right, if you're feeling a little sleepy. Well,
you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Exactly,
here.
Yes. So what we've got instead is we've got our little easy mocker. Right, so this is actually an 18 volt. Can I call it a coffee machine?
Yes, it's a proper coffee maker. Yeah.
Runs on our 18 volt batteries. About 2 amp hours for a brew. So you could put a normal compact battery, or you could put a double layer 4 amp hour battery on one of these. Brew up a nice little brew. I didn't bring any beans because I figured that would. I'll get distracted and then not do any work and make Dan do all the work.
You'd be buzzing around here much quicker than I would. I'll have to try and keep up.
Dan said you better do something today. I'm like, I'd rather just drink some tea, to be honest.
I didn't think you heard that.
Okay, right. So that's off now, is it?
Yep. Should be loose now, so lift it up and then there we go. There you go.
So assessing this, as we said earlier, centre crack, big crack here. That, as you said, that would need completely removed. We've got a big scuff there that's gone right in. That's really deep. You won't sand that out very easily.
Quite a nice chunk taken out of it there as well. Yeah.
So we have options. We could try and repair this. We could completely replace it, or we could cut a new one. However, I think what Danny and I are already naturally agreeing to is, let's do away with this leaf entirely.
Yeah.
Let's modify the main table.
Yeah, I think we could cut a strip off the side of that actually to give that nice flush finish, and then maybe we use a sander to profile it down the same as the rest of the table.
All right, let's flip it on its head and let's have a look at the top now. So this is a really important part of the process.
Did you want to remove this while we got it upside down, or?
Let's come back to that. Let's get sanding.
Well, it's getting lighter now anyway.
So this is a really important part of the process. And this is a process that many probably will skip, kind of me included sometimes, because I just want to crack on. But it is a really important part that you really need to take your time to assess what needs to be done. If you're building something, you always hear that phrase of measure twice, cut once. Or in many cases, in my case, measure about 50 times. And cut it once, and it's still going to be a bit wrong, but you get my point.
Yeah, I've got a tape measure that I swear it's a different tape of measurement every single time.
Yeah. So what we're going to have a look at is, what we're doing is we're dismantling it, having a really good look at it. We're not rushing into it.
No, exactly.
Although, I don't want to say, I've got a bad habit of going and doing live streams that go on for hours and hours and hours, so we can't do that today. No. Let's pop it back. Should we put it on the ground?
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
We're going that way over?
Yep.
Oh, you've made it really difficult there, haven't you? Whoop, there you go. Yeah. Let's take a look at that. Yeah. It's quite loose there, isn't it? Oh, I guess stood in your way. There you go.
Right, so the main thing we're going to do today is we are going to bring this back down to as far back bare wood as we can.
Yes.
Now we're going to be using a number of sanders, or we're probably going to use primarily a random orbital sander.
Yep, just to take the large amount of material off the top, just to see how far these watermarks actually go down. We've got a couple here, haven't we?
Yeah, so I'll give you the easy. So I've got, there's two. Danny's got the Easy Orbit 18V-10.
Yep. Just grab a battery.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, and I have the Universal Orbit-20.
Super comfortable, these, really comfortable in the hand.
So the advantage, or the main point of a random orbital sander, and it's all in the name, is the fact that it avoids making what we call like swirl marks.
Exactly, yeah. It's moving in a kind of an orbital pattern rather than just spinning. So you're not getting that same swirl marks. It's the same similar sort of mechanism as you'll find on automotive polishers or anything like that. We really don't want to cut swirl marks into the paintwork.
Yeah.
It's basically exactly the same fundamentals as that. However, obviously this is a sander designed to use on wood.
So if I pop upside down towards the close-up camera, maybe what you can see is you will be able to see that the plate will spin, but it's kind of got a wobble to it.
Yeah.
Not the easiest thing to see on
Yeah.
camera sometimes, but it's got an oscillation to it.
Exactly.
And what that means is you don't end up with track marks being worn into the materials you work. So it's a very fast and efficient way of sanding material away without creating patterns. Yeah?
Yep.
Now that's probably what we use to do the majority of this. Now as we're not going to completely refurbish this on the live, we're going to show you tools and techniques on doing it.
Yep.
So I think what we could do is a before and after, can't we?
Yes, I think we should tape it off. And obviously the gaffer tape comes into play there.
So I think, Dan, you're going to mark this in half.
Yep.
And then we're going to do a little bit of sanding just to show what can be achieved.
All right, I just want to take some of the tack off of this first so it doesn't stick to the material too much. So if I run that, also takes all the fluff off your trousers as well.
Well, Dan, while you're doing that, Dan, actually, I'll
Yeah.
take the opportunity to talk about sandpaper grit or
Wow.
abrasive grit. Now, this is something that a lot of people out there will ignore.
I was going to say, calm down.
Oh, this is getting exciting. A lot of people will do two things. And I could almost be one of them as well, which is you kind of skip steps. That you've got a project and you haven't got a lot of time and you want to get through it as quickly as possible. A lot of people will pick the most aggressive sandpaper. So, I mean, again, maybe show the close-up camera. What you've got in all your abrasive materials is you've got a grit. And sometimes it's hard to see on the camera, but you can see it's maybe showing there, shining on the lights there. You can see it's got lots of different bits of abrasive material, like it's like sandpaper, sand grit. Okay, and as you see, you've got different grits of paper. So here you can see I've got a very coarse grit. Okay, this is the coarse. This is a 60 grit.
That means 60 pieces of grit per inch, square inch.
Now we've got one that is, I think it's 120 grit. Okay. And we've also got a much finer one, which again, it might be hard to see on the camera, but this is very, very fine. And this is now 240 grit. So what you've got is a finer and finer grit pattern.
Yeah.
Now the reason I've shown you these three examples of paper is that we are looking at trying to reduce the amount, well, you're trying to do quick removal.
Yep.
But if you skip steps, what you've got is in those following steps, a lot more work. And the best analogy I can describe is if you went for a really coarse grit, say for example, P60 or 40, for example, then you've got these like granules that are scraping the material. It leaves these big valleys in the material.
Peaks and valleys.
Okay. If you then use a much finer grit, then obviously the actual grit particles are much, much smaller. And it can't go deep into the valleys. It can take the tops off the peaks, okay, and you're sanding the material down, but it can't get nice and low. You've got to try and even out all of these scratch marks, essentially. So you don't want to go too fine, too quickly. It's always good to go in as small steps as your budget allows.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, it might be extra.
The more steps,
passes.
the better finish that you're going to have at the end. Obviously, because you're working those peaks and troughs down equally. Skipping steps, it'll just mean you're on the last step for much longer to get to the same finish. However, you're probably not going to take that long.
Yes, that's the most important thing.
You'll end up never with a good product right at the end of it.
Yeah.
So,
that's the most important one, because you could always argue, oh, it's quicker not to do that. However, I would argue it's quicker to do it in all those stages, because that final stage Dan points out is you're going to take so long, and you're going to probably use up quite a lot of sandpaper to try and get down into those valleys to smooth off the whole thing. So I think Danny might be having some mic troubles.
I think I might be.
You can step off for a moment while I will talk about the actual machine itself.
back in 1 moment.
Hey man, live. This is what you get. Standard issue. Right, so.
I've got some questions to ask. We don't have like a system.
This is a 4 amp hour battery.
No mic problems, Chris.
No?
No, actually, we have some questions. That was the wave for questions.
Wow, okay.
So, yes.
Yeah, sorry guys. We don't have the little wavy thing that we normally do. We're quite informed. We're not in the studio anymore.
Yeah.
All right, so a couple things. what's that? Erkin YLDRM 6579.
Thanks for making it really easy on Ollie.
Yeah, really easy. The dyslexic. Yeah, he's just said, "Hi guys, have a great stream."
Thank you.
He says it's always a fine night when we get content from Chris and Dan. Hope you guys are doing well too.
Oh, I think he's come from somewhere else.
I think so.
Thank you very much. You've come from our other channel, I'm sure.
Yeah, Bernie definitely has. He says C&D looking good in green too.
Oh,
We try.
There you
Yeah. And he's got a bit more of a question, which is, I've noticed some new tools have been released without the Easy, Universal and Advanced moniker. Is this naming scheme being phased out?
Short answer?
go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, it is. We're going back to what we had previously, or we will be going back to what we had previously. Obviously, we're still working with products that are still easy, universal, and advanced. However, it is going back to same as we had before on the like the Pro side, the GSB. Now we're going to have the PSB, which is going to be the combi drill version in DIY. So, providing you understood the naming structure 10 years ago, it's going to be exactly the same as that.
As an example, this is one of the products that is now a PAS. So this is obviously our dust extractor. P for, I mean, we use P for private use. And then the naming structure is very similar. So this is a 20-230p. Okay, so you're talking about usually the size of the tank, and then you're talking about basically suction in millibar. Okay, so but yeah, you're correct that we're moving away from the performance level naming structure.
Yep.
To, as Dan points out, depends. Let us know in the chat if you prefer going back to this. Is it a simpler naming structure?
I quite like the good, better, best that we had with the easy, the universal, and advanced. But I'm personally so familiar with the naming structure we use for our Pro Tools. Then it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just me.
Yeah, and again, I think part of the process is that we want to simplify the range. In certain categories, we didn't always have 3 performance levels.
Exactly.
And people always say, oh, well, maybe I want a universal version of this saw, for example, and we never made it. Was one going to come out? And I think it caused some confusion. So doing away from the 3 performance classes and just having good machines in the range is a better choice, generally speaking.
Yeah, it's always nice to have something in the title of the machine that gives you an indication as to the performance output of the machine as well. So, I'm familiar for that.
So yeah, cool. Thanks, Ollie. Any other questions, mate?
Yeah, absolutely. Realistic DIYers is in the chat as well, and he would like to know. This one's about the coffee machine, the new coffee maker. Is why have we gone for beans instead of capsules? They can find it easier to carry the capsules in their pocket, no need to clean anything.
I think you'll probably find that's probably a licensing thing from the companies that make the capsules. We've gone for more of a.
I suppose this is more universally friendly. You just need ground beans. That's all you need to do. You just need a coffee bean grinder.
Yep.
And then you
whack some ground beans in a little Ziploc bag, and away you go. Actually, works out a lot cheaper like that as well, I have to say.
That was where I was going to go immediately by going, this is by far the easier and cheaper version. Yeah, the capsules are convenient. Not in your pocket, they're not.
I would argue also the fact that it's a better quality of coffee out of it as well from freshly ground beans than it is from a pod.
Maybe that doesn't mean we're not considering it. It just means in this first wave of, I think we have to call these our leisure tools, because this is more like for your camping and outdoor rather than
really
your DIY.
Known for that, but it's good that we've got something coming that way.
If you need an 18-volt coffee machine at home, pay your electricity bill.
I'd walk from the shed back into the house and make a cup of coffee. Give you a bit of a break as well.
Of course, but it's a really nice option if you're out and about, especially if you're doing camping and going on holiday and stuff like that.
Yeah. Even if you're in the car. Yeah.
Just sit in the car.
Sat in the car on the coffee machine.
Can't recommend.
Not whilst you're driving.
Any others, mate?
Yeah, just a couple more. Are there any plans for any new battery nailers? The blue pin nailer is too expensive for a DIYer, but it's quite useful for gluing boards.
There is an advanced stapler that takes pins. I would have to look into the actual specs.
That's the universal tacker, that one there.
That's the universal one, but I think, does that take, let me check with that.
I think the advanced tacker, 18 volt for DIY, it will take...
no, this takes pins as well, type 48, 40mm maximum length pins.
Yeah.
But I know that the other advanced one takes longer pins than that, so
yes, that's
again.
right, but not a not a dedicated nailer, second fix nailer to the degree that you're used to from the professional side. Again, maybe that will be something we add to the range, but currently not that we've seen in our roadmap yet. Yeah.
Well, the thing is, that's also the limitation about the Easy, Universal and Advanced. Obviously, we've made an advanced one. If we want to make something better, then that limits us, doesn't it?
True.
So
Technically, it's a tacker, so maybe we will come out with a DIY range of nailers specifically, which will probably be probably something I can see a really good market for.
Yeah, that'd be a PTH. We'll have to keep an eye out for that.
Or PNH.
Or PNH, yeah.
Cool.
We'll see.
Ollie, yeah, thanks.
Yeah, there's a couple more, but I'll save them, bank them for later.
Cool. Okay, yes, because we haven't even switched the tool on yet.
That's it.
This refurbishment is going to take a really long time. Standard, no change there for me.
It's true.
We'll be obviously in no rush. Okay, right. So we've already addressed the fact that we are going to, in this demonstration or this application, a random orbital sander makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
I'll grab another one as an example. Maybe we'll use it later, but it's good to point out that we also have this, which is a universal sander, but as you can see, it's got a completely different shape, right?
That's an orbital sander, not a random orbital sander. So again, basically just vibrates. The pad at the bottom almost rotates in a fixed orbit. So again, it's a different type of sander. Hence, we've got the delta shape on the end there. It allows you to get it into tighter corners. So something like this we may use on the legs to get into the tight corners around the spindles and that sort of thing.
Even if we come just down a little bit, you'll see here, if I wanted to use it here, a random orbital is just the wrong shape.
To get right up into a corner like this, for instance, then you wouldn't be able to.
Or here, for example, like that. That's a perfect example of why a delta-shaped sander is the ideal choice for that kind of application.
Exactly, yeah.
So, I mean, we often get questions going, oh, what's the best tool? And we always say, doesn't matter if we're doing our DIY or if we're doing our professional live stream, it's always going to be on horses for courses. What's the application you need? And sometimes you need a couple different tools to do something well. Maybe
True, you could do the whole of the tabletop using the delta sander. It's going to take you a bit longer, and you'd have to be aware of which way that you're actually using the machine. You'd have to use it backwards and forwards along with the grain to help prevent getting any swirl marks. But it'd be faster with this one. So, I mean, if you're doing this on the regular, then I'd go for both machines.
Yeah.
Again, it is horses for courses, as Chris says.
Something else we might show as well is there's a good chance that many people out there are using multi-tools. Here I've got the Universal Multi 18V-32. This is a nice little multi-tool.
It's a comfortable one, isn't it?
What I've
I
already
quite like
put,
that.
as you can see, what I've put on already is our little, well, I guess you could still delta, our little triangular sanding pad. So that acts very similar to a delta sander, just a bit smaller. But because of the oscillating action that the multi-tool does, it makes it a really ideal sander. And this will be really good to get into some of the nooks and crannies on this table as an example.
It actually, because it vibrates from side to side or oscillates, in many occasions, it actually does a better job than the delta sander.
So,
we'll have a go at it and we'll see
right.
what it comes out.
And again, I've got a whole range of different grit pads, sort pads, sandpapers as well. So we can be really aggressive just to show how quickly it can remove, and then we can also show how nice finish it produces. But we've got other options. But in this first demonstration, you happy to do it then?
Yes, I'm just going to do this side here because this is we've got a really nasty piece of water damage just here on the front. So I want to take this down and see if we can get rid of that. I think we've got half the battle won with the rest of it. To be fair, that's the worst piece.
Right. So the first thing we could suggest is, we can do it with the dust box on. Do you want to try a little bit of the dust box?
I think we do it with the dust box. These machines actually have a fan built into the lower section of the machine here. And what this does is it lifts the material up. So it's almost got a kind of a dust extraction built into it. So it does collect very, very well. However, you can simply just twist this and pop it off there. And it's long enough for you to put a push fit adapter from any of the extractors on there as well.
Yeah, I suggest you use the Universal Orbit 18V-20 because that's more aggressive. Now you've got a choice. I've got P80 on that, or I've also got P60.
I think
more aggressive.
We'll try the P60 because I think that's going to make more of a noticeable difference. I need to grab a face mask and face mask and goggles. So where did I put them?
Okay, right. Come back to the Y for us, Ollie. All right, so while we're getting set up, now what we'll do is we'll use the dust box on the back of the sander to start with. And then what we can also do is we can plug in and attach our PAS, our dust extractor or vacuum cleaner, to the back and show again how nice and fast and efficient that is at removing dust. I'm going to grab my mask as well. Now, this is always a suggestion, like, do you need PPE? It's completely down to how much you care about your health.
I've put my safety glasses somewhere. I put my safety glasses somewhere, but can't find them. So I've got my regular glasses.
I'll go get them for you then.
Okay. Is that right? Oh,
What would you do without me?
I left them over there. There you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, we've picked these quite nice looking, expensive P3 masks. Now, you don't necessarily have to go for an expensive one like this. You can use the disposable masks that you put on your face. I choose these particularly because I've got facial hair, so this makes it a lot easier to create a seal. You can also do a press check on these. But as long as you're buying, I would suggest P2 or P3 FFPE masks, then they're the ones I'd recommend.
There's virtually no cost difference between the P2s and P3s. I go P3s, just to be on the safe side.
Yes, that's right, because they've got a better and higher level filtration. When you're sanding, you're producing quite a lot of dust. And it's always good to have the best filtration and all the best solutions to try and keep that dust out of the air. If we're outside, that's cool, that's nice. Your neighbours might not like it, so we'd always recommend dust box and or dust extraction, yeah?
Yeah, yeah.
Cool. All right, we're going to stop talking because we sound stupid, and then we're going to do a little bit of work and then we'll see how we do, yeah?
Yep, no problem. Right.
Go on,
So,
then.
we're all set. Now turn this up to full.
High speed.
I have to admit, sorry. I have to admit that cleaned up really well.
Yeah, I didn't want to stop. I didn't want to stop you, but I thought it'd be a valid point just to pause for a second, just to see how much we've done so quickly already.
Yes, good point.
On a really aggressive sandpaper. So again, I'll clear the desk so you can see that you've got a very nice, clean night and day shot. Hopefully you can see that on the cameras there.
We've got a little bit of it's like a coffee stain here, and this one is disappearing.
Yeah. If you come a little, if Rebecca comes in just quickly to show, you can see, maybe this will give a good indication. You can see the really clear night and day. Sometimes you might even just want to bring it down if it hasn't got a varnish on it, for example. You can see how much probably baked in dirt and age is on here.
Yeah.
This is the first stage of, again, cleaning and bringing it back to its former glory.
You can really tell now that it's definitely oak.
Yeah.
It's got that oak colour to it, so.
All right, thank you. Thanks, Rebecca. Yes, I mean, this is a very important note. This wouldn't necessarily work if you've got furniture board or some of the cheaper furniture out there. You'll discover very quickly as you go through the laminate layer that you go to chipboard.
Yeah, it's made chipboard.
Okay, so this is only going to be a refurbishment or a restoration of something that's made out of real wood. Yeah, we could probably use a bit of filler on that. So,
that's fine.
Oh, actually, that's pretty good. Right, okay, right. So, do you want to do a little bit more on this, or do you want to move up to a finer grit?
Normally I would do a little bit more on this, but it depends where you want to go with it.
Let's go with let's go with a slightly finer grit.
Yep.
And see if there's a difference. Now, I would imagine I want to just demonstrate the fact that
still
we
quite
probably
rough,
need to do a
isn't it?
lot more work.
You can
and if we do this as a finer grit, you're probably not going to be as productive. Right, and that's the art of knowing when you need to change to another accessory. It's whether you're making any progress or not.
One thing I want to mention whilst we're using one of these sanders is how you use these sanders, because it's quite critical that you don't place too much weight on the top of the sander. We quite often get a lot of customers saying, oh, my hook and loop fastening, because we have to call this hook and loop fastening on the bottom here, doesn't stick anymore, doesn't hold the paper on. or the abrasive material on.
Yeah.
And the reason for this is because there's been too much weight applied to the machine. You've been loading up the motor on this. This does two things. It will flatten your battery quicker. It will put undue stress on your motor, but most importantly, it will heat up the edge of that hook and loop fastening under there. It gets very hot, at which point it melts. And when it melts, it becomes very smooth and doesn't operate like hook and loop fastening anymore.
The hooks they go away.
Yeah,
The hooks disappear
completely flat,
and then there's nothing to hold the accessory on. Yeah.
And the only thing at that point is changing the base plate of the machine. You can get pad savers, we do as well, which are a hook and loop intermediate pad, which stick directly to here, and then they've got a little layer of foam with another layer of hook and loop on it as well, and that can stick on the top of it as well, and of course that mitigates a lot of the heat. But the best way to use these machines is to simply place it onto the piece of timber, turn it on, and guide it. Let the machine do the work for you.
Now, obviously Dan's brought up some really important points there, but the thing that a lot of people do wrong is they actually start the machine up first and then place it onto the material. Now, it does entirely depend on how fine a quality, but the recommendation is always start with the sander on the material. Why? It's because when you're placing the machine onto the material, there's a good chance you're going to come at an angle. And that very brief split second, you're going to be very aggressive on one part. If you're working very, very fine work, then what you might do is you might take not a gouge, but you might make a little divot.
Yeah, you divot a semicircle into the actual surface of the timber, especially when you're working on a softer wood or anything like that. You can actually take quite a gouge out of the wood. So usually start it up at a low speed, in contact with the wood, and then obviously turn the speed up.
Yeah. Again, as it's alive, I'm wondering if people are joining in. We're just talking about the correct way to use a sander.
Yeah.
And what Dan's just said there is the one thing you want to avoid is
leaning on it.
Lots of pressure.
Funnily enough, leaning on it will definitely reduce the amount of material that can get away from the wood. Obviously, you created sawdust, haven't you? And you want to get that away so you can sand the fresh wood underneath it. So the more you hold it down, the more that you're basically grinding sawdust back into the timber again, and you'll flatten off the abrasive material. And again, there's that heat build up as well, which will damage the hook and loop.
Okay, let's do another pass, Dan. Let's do another pass. Let's have a look at the bottom of that as well. Yeah, not bad.
Very nice.
Let's do one with dust extraction now, just to show how quick and easy it is. So I'll grab the back.
Did you want to do 60 or do we want to do the same?
Let's go up a stage. What have I got here? Let's go 120. Now I think we could spend more time doing a more aggressive.
So you can see there on the back of this actual paper here where the dust extraction has taken place. So it's sucked the dust through and lifted it up and into the actual dust container there. So again, evidence that the dust extraction is working.
I'm going to anticipate a question, Ollie, which is when do I need to change my sandpaper? And the answer is really easy. When you stop removing material. Now that might sound like a stupid question, but you will know whether or not you are actually progressing and removing paint or removing layers of wood or dirt or whatever you're doing. It becomes very apparent very quickly that you're not doing anything anymore, right?
Exactly.
And sometimes you can even feel on the actual abrasive, the sandpaper themselves, that it's now very smooth. And if it's smooth to your fingers, then it's going to be doing nothing to your application. So
exactly.
I'll just do it. Yep.
I shall PPE myself again.
So what we're doing now is I'm just putting on the dust hose. This is a friction fret hose. Okay, that means that instead of it being lifted up by the motor itself into a dust box, which is hopefully you can see there was pretty efficient. Now that we're running with an external extractor, this will be far, far better. Now, I probably don't even need to put this on, but I will anyway, because I'm very happy with the performance of these PASs.
Yes.
Okay, so do a little bit more, see how we do.
What's it said?
Hopefully you didn't leave, although it wouldn't be a bad idea to always take a minute to make a cup of tea, or use the Easy Mocha to make a little coffee, of course.
Yes.
A little bit of technical difficulties. We just lost the internet very briefly there. Hey, I don't know. what's happening. It could be anything, right? Outside of Greater London, who knows?
The weather could have changed.
That's right.
Could have been
There's
anything.
leaves on the rail. Okay, so all we were talking about there is the fact that Dan's now, we've stepped up prematurely perhaps. We've gone to a far finer grit, so a higher number, so 120 instead of using, what was it, 80 or 60?
80 to 60, yeah.
And what we've discovered is now it is getting softer, smoother to touch, but we're not removing some of the material that we still want to remove. We've still got a bit of water staining here and probably a little bit more here. So we wouldn't have naturally gone to 120 yet. We would have stayed being more aggressive with 60, 40 or whatever to try and bring it down, to try and remove as much of the staining as possible.
But we don't know currently how deep this staining actually goes at the moment. If we, for instance, spend half an hour sanding it down and it's still, you can still see the coffee marks or the water stains in here, then maybe you want to think about maybe a bit of wood dye, or tinted polish or tinted varnish or something like that that will mask those marks within the wood and again protect it.
That's right, and an absolute last ditch.
It looks fairly like it's had some dye before, but I think that tends to be dirt.
But again, absolute last stitch, and it's something I'd like to avoid because I actually really like natural grain. You could paint it.
You could,
yeah. If dyeing it a darker colour doesn't hide the parts that you don't like, or it's got lots of hot divots and stuff, damage to it. You can always paint it, and that's perfectly fine.
Yeah, you can get rid of all of those divots with a bit of filler maybe, and then go from there.
Okay, right. So if we haven't lost you, we're just doing the initial sanding phase just to show. One of the things you want to do when restoring something is bring it back down through paint, get rid of sticker marks and dirt, sand it down back to bare wood. Now at this stage, we could do a number of things. If this had holes, we could use filler, fill those holes, maybe sand those down as well.
Even if we were something like a small crack here, maybe take some of the sawdust or sanding dust you've got in that dust collector, mix that with a little bit of PVA or wood glue, and then just force it into that groove, let it dry, and then sand it back even more. And your thing is, at that point, you're going to match the colour of the wood, and again, you've made basically your own filler.
Yes. When you had the dust extractor on the sander, did you notice any difference?
The only difference I noticed is it was a lot firmer pulled down onto the actual the wood itself, which again is a good sign that it's giving itself the pressure that it needs to operate, and you don't have to do anything more than that. You're just guiding it.
You're not wanting the sander to stick to whatever you're sanding. You want to be able to hang off it, so to speak. You just want to be reassured that the amount of dust being pulled to the machine is higher.
Exactly.
As Dan pointed out earlier, you don't want that flowing around in the air, here or in your neighbour's garden or in your own lungs, for example, or in your house. So you want to make sure the dust has been removed, but more importantly, the material, you want to get rid of it.
We're using a hardwood here as well, and there is a tendency for these to have carcinogens in them over the years. So, dust extraction is the best option. The minimum option would be a face mask, but it'd have to be FFP3.
That'll be my recommendation. Right, so next phase. So sanding, going through all the different stages of grit, going up to a nice fine grit once you get to that, getting closer to your finish. So we could go up to something like 240, for example, and then maybe that would be our last part of the preparation phase.
Yeah, that would be plenty fine enough for maybe a varnish, maybe 2 or 3 coats of polyurethane. Or a lot of the water-based varnishes now are actually really good. So, yeah, maybe something like that.
Right, so next stage, or what could we potentially say? We're talking about the support arms.
This side was the okay side. I think that's not so bad. But this one here, I think...
Yeah, spin it around.
Yeah. There you go. Smooth move.
Very nice. This one has a lot of play. I don't know if you can see down here on the close-up camera, you can see there's a lot of... Now we could repair that. We could drill out underneath, and we could redowel it perhaps. But I think we're going to make the decision to remove that.
Yes, I think so.
In our little technical break, Dan and I have already discussed and said, do you know what? Yeah, let's make this a one-sided table. 1, more fun. 2,
more tools.
We've got power tools. What are we going to do with all these tools otherwise? Now we've got the option.
The other thing I'd like to do actually is this lip here. Obviously, this is profiled to go underneath the leaf as you put it up.
Yeah.
Maybe run a guide across the top here and run a circular saw across it just to flatten it off. Maybe you can sand the edge back in then, to match the rest of the tabletop around the sides.
Yeah, we could do that. All right, so first things first. What do you want to do? Should we remove this first?
Yes.
I mean, the very worst, we could remove it with the potential of putting it back. We're not going to do that because I think
Yeah.
I agree. Let's take this off and make it a whole table.
Yeah, whole table, yeah.
Whole table. So next thing we're going to do is try and remove this. Now we've got options. We could use a multi-tool with, say, for example, what have I got here as an example? Maybe a plunge blade or a segment blade. These are great options of accessories that we could use to cut underneath here. Like that. However, we've also got some hand tools behind you, Dan.
We
which
do.
We have the option we could use as well. Maybe we could use a Japan saw to make that a
Yes.
little easier for us.
I think we will. We'll use this one here. Let me just pop this cable tie off.
Do you want
here.
me to get the desk up?
Yes.
Make it a little easier. Again, we're not working in our normal workshops. We've decided to use a completely different space to make it a little easier for filming. But if you've got a work desk and we're working on a shed, or I mean, you can also just work on the ground. To be honest, it's just a little bit undignified for us.
Yeah.
We'll get the desk in, make it easier for filming. But we'd always recommend that you have got a nice space to work in.
Yes. So there, we do 3 Japan saws. This one is the Kataba, which I think you'll probably pronounce better than I can.
What were you saying? Right. Okay. Let's get it on here first.
Yep. You got.
All right, I'll get it into position so we can get it on camera. Now, as I said, there are a lot of options here. We're going with the more destructive process because we want to do more things with tools. We would be more than happy to attempt to refurbish that. Just needs, probably we'll draw that out from example and then re-dowel that so it's actually got something to rotate on.
But currently we don't know what the state of the inside of this leg is and how far that's worn. So again, you'd have to do this either way. So.
So on that topic, as you can see from behind me, we have, this is only a small selection of our actually quite impressive range of hand tools that we brought out in the DIY range. They're all made out of, I mean, I was going to say...
Mostly S2 stainless steel.
S2 or chrome vanadium. And I would argue that even though these are our DIY hand tools, I think many professionals would be happy with that quality.
Oh, yeah.
So if you're a DIYer and you're saying, I'd really like to buy professional hand tools, consider these regardless. Have a feel of them. If you can get into a store that sells them,
the packets are designed so the packaging is designed so you can actually get a good feel for the machine for the hand tools as it is anyway.
That's right. And I wanted to make a point that actually currently, if you're looking for a width of range, the DIY range of hand tools is actually bigger than our professional range currently.
Yeah.
Obviously, the professional range is designed for a lot more professional and specialist tasks, such as our VDE, electrically rated or insulated hand tools.
But if you want woodworking hand tools, then the DIY range is the one for you.
Yeah, exactly. Right, okay. I'll better get you some glasses, Dan, in case you get some sawdust in your eyes.
No, I'll try not to.
Okay, right, yeah. While you're preparing for that, I'm also looking at the legs themselves. Now these are, as you can see, they're cylindrical. They've got some flat sections as well. Yep. All right. But as you can imagine, these cylindrical shapes are not great for trying to use with, say, that random orbital sander we've got. So I'm already thinking, what else have I got in our little table there that would be suitable for this? We could use hand sanding foams or sandpaper to do this, but we're power tools here, so I'm going to think about what we can use while you cut that off.
Right. Okay. So, do you want to support this a second? Yep. Put that one way. So the beauty of this, actually, on the front of these saws here, there's a little clip here, which you flip up and take the cover off. So you can actually reuse the cover next time you finish using it.
Before you start that, then I'm just going to try and lock one of these wheels for us, make it a little easier for us to work. Again, we are working in a studio. You should be trying to work in something a little bit more stable, but we make do. Right.
So you might need to pull that towards your way a little bit and take some weight off of it. There you go. And I'm going to try and get this in there.
Cool.
Definitely cutting. I would suggest if you're doing this at home, obviously, unless you have a Chris to help you hold things together, probably a workbench that you can actually clamp it down to. Oh, yeah, I think you've put some weight back on it, or I've got the... Keep moving it. There you go. So Sorry, that's not gone through yet. No. Well, it's nearly through. There it is.
Yep.
Yeah. Does that come up? And there you go.
So we can assess. Yeah, well, there you go. That's what we thought it was. Just a single dowel on that point. That was the pivot point, and obviously it's worn quite a lot there.
And you've also got the dowel on this side here, which I will quickly.
Oh, I was going to use a multi-tool for it.
You could have used a multi-tool. You might want to sand that off afterwards. So there you go.
Very nice, very simple. We can sand away that error. All right, so
It's not an error. It's a happy accident.
phenomenal. So look, we could keep this still. We could quite easily repair this and put it back into its dual leaf function if we wanted to.
Or we could utilise some of the timber to fill that gap on the table there as well.
Mm-hmm.
But again, we'll see how it works out.
So it was that way, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
it was, yeah.
Right, okay, so let's put this to one side, and then we're going to do something a bit drastic now. As we said, we are wanting to make this a single side table, but before we move any further, maybe it'll be prudent just to double check, Ollie, whether or not we've had any more questions, or is everyone just quite happily watching us make it up as we go along?
Yeah, pretty much. There's a couple of people talking about how the new naming changes, difficult to wrap heads around, but they're just quite happy to see you trying to pronounce German more than anything.
What, just pronounce German things in general?
Yeah, just like the German names, they're enjoying you watching you struggle.
We'll get to it later, because
I hope I did a good job at the Japanese saw as well.
Well, considering
Kataba? I'm sure. If I've got it wrong,
it's Kataba. Yeah.
let me know.
Anyone in chat?
Well, I mean, everyone always laughs when I call that a private label. No, I'm not going to say it. 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 I'll embarrass myself towards the end of the stream. Okay, right. So what we do now is I think we said we're going to cut this lip off, aren't we?
Yes.
So it gives us the option to use a
Actually, I'd
number of
leave it
different.
on there.
You sure?
Yeah, leave it on there. We're going to cut through it anyway.
Okay, cool. So to take this lip off, I think the only real choice is to use a circ saw.
Yep.
Right, circ saw means that we keep a nice straight edge. We could use other things. You could hack away with a multi-tool or a jigsaw, but a circular saw
It's going to be the perfect cut. We'll use a guide rail as well, which keeps the saw dead on track. So
okay. I'll get it back
by
on the,
far get the better finish.
I'll put it on the ground. And Dan, if you want to grab the machine.
Yep, you got it. I'll get rid of that. Hang on.
It's got wheel locks.
Yep. I'll work my way around it.
Okay, so what Danny wants to use is he's going to be using the Universal Circ 18V-53. Okay, this would probably end up being called a different machine with the new naming structure for those in the chat. So this would just become a PKS 18V- probably a 53, which stands for the maximum depth of cut, and that's a normal specification that we have on our circular saws in the professional range and on the older DIY named products.
Right, okay. Before I touch that, when you put anything on it, just going to clamp this down so it doesn't move.
Now, when you're using a circular saw, the trick normally is that we would adjust the depth to match the depth of material you're cutting. Many people leave it in the maximum depth of cut orientation. Okay, it's fine. I mean, it's not the way we would recommend use it because that does use up a lot of energy and doesn't necessarily produce the cleanest cut. The ideal way to set up a circular saw is so you've got only just one of the teeth protruding out the bottom.
Yeah, maximum teeth in the cut is the rule of thumb.
That's right. So that will help with better quality of cut, but it'll also have a really big effect, especially if you're running on battery powered tools, because it makes your tool more efficient. It means you don't run out or use as much charge on your battery, so you get more cuts per charge, and that's really useful, especially if you've only got one battery, for example. Okay, now we can. Do you want to set the height?
I think
You don't need much. It's a very minor amount of material we're removing.
Remember, you've got to take into account the actual depth of the material itself, the guide rail as well. So that there, I think, is going to be...
You're eyeballing it.
I'm eyeballing it, yeah, which isn't...
Dan's very experienced, so he's going to eyeball it. I sometimes like to place it on the rail or on the
could do that as
material.
well.
You could do that. We'll see. If it goes wrong, it doesn't matter. It's a scribe cut, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then visually just
There
double
you
check
go.
whether or not
That's
it's about
perfect.
right. Yeah.
That's right.
Now I've got some earplugs because obviously circ saws do produce a little bit more sound than the sanders do. So we'd always recommend using some hearing protection if you're using circ saws personally.
Yep. Need a dust
Dust
extraction as well?
we'll be using a friction fit, so I can set that up for you then.
Yep, cool. I need.
Okay, so this uses friction fit to go in here like that. Okay, I'll make sure that hopefully that doesn't come out. Right, now we're only going to do one cut here, so we're running on dust extraction as well. If you're doing lots of multiple cuts, we would always recommend wearing face protection.
Yep. Usually, and if you were cutting through a thicker material, we'd obviously recommend multiple cuts as well. Don't try to do the whole thing in one go. You'll find that the blade will pick up the grain of the material and potentially pull it into the guide, and then you'd end up ruining your guide rail.
Yep.
So take your time, shallow cut, medium cut, all the way through. There you go.
Your mask's just on the desk behind you there, Dan.
Yep.
Important to note when you're using saws of any kind, say circular saws, technically jigsaws and miter saws and other things, table saws, we never recommend you use gloves. And you might say, but why? Handling wood, wearing gloves is a really good thing because you might get splinters, get plenty of them. And the main reason is that it becomes a risk. There's two reasons why. That often when you're wearing gloves, it makes your hands just slightly bit bigger. And actually you'll be surprised how familiar you are with your hands.
Yes.
And sometimes you don't realise that actually your fingers are a little bit longer where you're wearing gloves, and that sometimes has the risk that you might catch something like the blade because you're nearer than you think you are. And another reason is the fact that, just generally speaking, that you can get drawn into blades because of the gloves themselves. They are useful if you want to find your fingers, if you get brightly coloured gloves, but they won't help protect you anyway, so we say, and we always recommend you do away with gloves when you're actually doing the cutting process. If you're changing blades and accessories, that's a good time to keep your gloves on. If you are even an experienced DIY, it's still possible. I've cut myself plenty of times on jigsaw blades. When I take my gloves off and I go, always wear gloves, and then I cut myself. So yeah, gloves on when we're changing accessories, gloves off when cutting.
Yes,
okay.
that's it. Right. Yep.
Okay, let me know.
Sorry? Well, it's on the floor, so that means it worked.
Very nice. Well, yeah, there you go. So you judged the depth perfectly. Clean, straight cuts. Now you can do it without a guide rail if you're working on something that has a straight edge on the other side.
Well, this did
some
have
cases,
kind of a straight edge that I could have used as a guide anyway.
Yeah, parallel guide. But it's sometimes not always possible, and that's the reason why we make guide rails for this application.
You could have even clamped a piece of wood, measured the distance where the blade is, clamped a piece of wood and run the machine down the side of it. It does exactly the same thing.
Yep.
Obviously, get yourself a straight piece of wood.
If I'm being honest to the viewers out there, again, this is another reason why sometimes you don't need to wear gloves, so you can have a feel of that. That's a really clean cut.
It's a nice cut, yeah.
I wouldn't even, I mean, yes, you might want to round over the edge with a router foot, maybe.
I would
for example.
underneath that, but may need to get rid of this, the recesses for the hinges.
That's right, but if that didn't have the recesses for the hinges and you just wanted to cut that bit of material, that circ saw with that standard blade has produced a really nice cut.
Yes.
It's quite nice to be working with hardwood as well as opposed to softer wood, because it means that you've got a really nice finish, really nice. Right, okay, so doing quite well. What time have we got? Okay, cool. I think I was aiming for about an hour and a half. We had a little technical issue, but not too bad. So we're getting quite through this quite well, actually.
We do have a couple questions.
Oh, cool.
Oh,
Let's pause for a second then while we're assessing our
pause.
beautiful work here.
I think we've got a new live stream desk. Maybe a bit low.
Yeah, a little low.
Yeah, it's a little low. Timo Phileum 226. He says, in the market for a table saw, anything green on the way?
Ooh, table saw.
Yeah, I mean, it's the kind of thing that would suit the DIY range quite well, actually.
It really would, yeah.
Not a really high-performing one, but just a nice one.
We've had one in the past, which was a little bit of an oddity, which you would actually place the wood on, and you'd actually pull the blade through the timber, which was actually a really good saw.
We also had the nano blade one.
Yes.
That one, we had a nano blade one, which is similar design, a pull saw, but it wasn't using the circular saw blade. It was using, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to say it. I'm going to get in trouble. It's like using a little mini chainsaw.
Oh, we're going to get in trouble for that. No.
Look, if you saw it, you'll know what I'm on about. Same kind of design. Novel idea, really liked it. I don't think we did really well in the UK with that. No. I don't think people could quite get their head around the idea of it because it's so new. So that was a really good design.
Yeah.
Cirque's table saw, yeah, maybe a 216 or an 8-inch table saw would be a really
even
good
a
idea.
smaller one, to be fair.
Maybe.
It depends what material you're cutting.
Yeah.
So.
I'll pass it back to that unpronounceable name. What type of table saw are you looking for? And again, we could have the option that we are going back to Germany in the next couple of weeks, and we can ask the product managers to ask, hey, have we got any plans for, I'd imagine it's going to be a mains table saw. It'll probably have to be mains just because of the power. But it depends. If you go for a smaller table saw.
Yeah, smaller table
maybe
with maybe an 8-inch blade. Something like that would make a lot of sense.
But maybe we could have a cordless version if it's a smaller machine. Yeah. So it's possible. So yeah, please let us know what sizes, what type of table saw you're looking for. Hey, we'll ask the question, see if it's coming down the roadmap or if it's something that we can try and get started. Yeah. Because I think you're right. Table saw, DIY table saw. There's a hole in the range for it, for sure.
Or a mitre saw as well.
Yes.
Definitely like to see a mitre saw.
Yeah, I think the challenge would be for some battery-powered benchtop machines is going to be the energy source. So with the DIY batteries, they're great. They're ideal for the range of tools that we've got currently, even up to things like our small angle grinders. But when you start moving into the larger benchtop machines, like you can see what we've done in our Pro range, is we have the ability to access far more powerful, although more expensive batteries to run these bigger corded equivalent machines. For DIY, it's a little less needed because, in theory, hopefully, if you haven't made a mistake at home, you've got electricity, and you've got access to 240 all the time.
Yeah, I can't help think that they would probably be more of a workshop thing at home.
Yes.
So maybe a corded would be.
That's what I was.
I reckon if they were going to put dip their toe in the water there, they'd probably do a corded one first and see how that went.
I'd agree. Yeah, Ollie, any more questions, mate?
Yeah, got a couple more. Bernie wants to know, are we filming in a gymnasium, the Bosch UK gymnasium or not?
With
Sounds
weird
like
lines,
it, isn't it? Yeah. Going to shoot a few hoops after? No.
No, we're in a secret, undisclosed location that we can't tell you about. We're next door to the studio.
It's not a long way.
It's not very secret, but we're still in Denham.
Yeah.
There we are.
I drilled a hole through the wall.
Shh. No one knows about that. They know now. No telling on us.
No.
Ollie, please.
Yeah, a couple more questions. Bernie and Realistic DIYs have a similar question. They're asking what type of guide rail you're using. Realistic DIYs goes on and says he's never seen this rail before, only seen the plastic black one. Is this a new product?
The plastic black one is the one that we sell now. If you're lucky enough to be able to find one, this is the older FSN rail system, which was the old DIY system, which still works with the new guide rail saws. So this is, the one you want to look for is the FSN 140. They are still available. You can get them new. And I have a part number as well here, if I could say that out loud. It is 2602 317 031. So have a look online for that. And yeah, you should be able to find them, no problem.
Yeah, the plastic rails are equally fine. They're probably more affordable as well. These will be rarer.
Yep.
As Danny pointed out, having a rail is great, but many people might not want to invest in it because it's not something they're going to use regularly. You get a really nice straight bit of wood, for example. You can use that like a big parallel guide or a rail that you put against the base plate. Yeah. And you use that. That's very typical. Many professionals do that as well, when they don't have access to a parallel.
Or they forgot a rail and they've just got a piece of 2x4 in the van.
Yes, exactly. But make sure that's straight.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah, you might want to check that straight as well.
I've seen people. I'm not going to name names, but I've seen people that. Why is that not straight? Yes. Okay, Ollie, any other questions, mate?
Yeah, just a couple more. Bernie's come back and he said a slightly more advanced version of the Dremel cutting station might be a good fit for Bosch DIY as an alternative to a table saw.
I was just about to suggest the Dremel the Blueprint workstation.
Yeah.
That's a really great option. I actually wish that existed in DIY and Pro of a type, so a portable saw station. Really good idea. I think I'd like one with a bit more depth of cut, personally, for the DIY range. But
maybe, yeah,
maybe
one with a little bit of a bigger blade. But similar.
But that would be, and using maybe a DIY circ saw to run that as well.
Yeah.
Because it works. I mean, okay, we'll take that on. We'll take that on, and we'll pass up the line and see whether or not there's a potential to have a slightly more powerful version of that Dremel station.
Remember we did have a product which was almost like a mitre base. You'd put the timber on it, and then you'd have a where you could slot in a jigsaw, and then you cut the jigsaw at an angle as well, which was an interesting solution. Obviously, that wasn't around for too long, but it only fitted one particular machine. Obviously, the machine's now no longer around; it's obsolete. So is the attachments that it goes with, unfortunately.
Yeah, but it's a really good idea, and something that we'll suggest to the product teams when we see them next. Cool. Yeah. Ollie, any more?
Yeah, Realistic DIY has just come back and said thanks for the rail code. He'll look into it.
Cool.
And Bernie asked, he missed the beginning of the stream. He just wants to know who's keeping the table.
Well, I think
I'm keeping that side.
Yeah,
I
I like patina. So this is going on my side of the office.
Yeah.
And you can have this side. How's that?
We haven't decided yet. I think it's probably the.
Well, the person who donated to us, are they wanting it back?
I don't know.
Did he want both bits?
I don't. Yeah.
Well, we've made the decision that it's only a
What are you
single
talking about,
table.
Chris? We didn't know where it came from. It was a surprise. What are you on about?
We'll fight over it later.
Yes.
Last, any more questions, Ollie? We'll get to the last bit of our little refurb demo here.
No, that's all for now.
Cool. Okay, so right, we were going to talk about some options that we could have here. So we've already mentioned that we've cut off this bit. Now we'll sit nice and flush.
Yep.
We have the option to fill some of these gaps.
Yep.
So we could use the original swing arm. And we could literally just cut off a section of that. Now we got options.
Well, it's going to match. The wood's going to match, obviously, because it comes from the same table. Or we could use part of the tabletop that's got the split.
We could
as well.
Now it would be probably wise to use something like a circ saw to make sure you're cutting nice straight angles. Now, however, I mean that space might not be straight.
True.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now I'm not necessarily going to do that today. But I would often recommend something like a jigsaw for some of this finer, difficult work.
Yeah.
Maybe a multi-tool might be a good option, but I find them quite loud and quite slow and quite messy as well. Now, I think a jigsaw is a good option for many things where it doesn't need to be very straight. It doesn't need to be for long cuts, for example. Circ saw is what I would use for doing straight cuts for a long period.
More detailed cuts.
Yeah,
things
a
like
lot
that,
more control and the ability to guide and make more shapes.
Yeah.
Now that might be a good option to fill that gap, or just to come across here and cut the material like that. I wanted to bring a jigsaw out because I also wanted to talk about different options when it comes to jigsaw blades, because we've got, we make a lot of jigsaw blades.
Yes.
We probably make around 120 different types of jigsaw blades, roughly.
Yeah, and then you're talking about obviously different lengths of blades in that as well. So yeah,
Now
there's a whole coding system to understanding exactly the different blades. So
now these are old packaged blades, but you can see they all have interesting names on the top. You can see ones like this one here. Get to the close-up camera. You can see that we've got things like T111C or 111C, but don't worry about the names too much. More of it, most of it's going to be about the name. Okay, so this is going to be like our basic for wood. Okay, basic for wood, I probably wouldn't recommend.
You probably get a couple of those in the pack with the jigsaw when you get it. So yeah, they're the most basic blades you can get to this. Okay. Very quick cutting, not necessarily the cleanest of cuts.
That's right, yes. So sometimes, look, if you are really nerdy and you want to know the names, then you memorize the names, or you're trying to buy blades that you've already got, then the naming structure here is beneficial. I often recommend lots of people just look at what the description of the blade is.
It's all there on the packet.
Yeah, basic for wood. It does exactly what it says on the package. This is your real cost-effective rough cut blade. For anything I was doing today with this refurbishment, I wouldn't touch a basic for blade. This is if you're doing like your if you're doing like framing work, something that's not going to be seen, or you're doing rough cutting, all right, and you want to keep to a budget, you don't care about the finish, yeah. Or if you're going to do a clean up, you're going to sand it down after. Maybe you could be cheap and use basic. I would start thinking about, okay, for these kinds of things, I'm looking for clean blades. Now they've got things like speed for hardwood, for example. Now these are great blades, they're very aggressive, but again, it's the same issue. You don't want a fast blade if you're working with, try and get the light away from that, if you're working in something that involves finishing work, okay? So instead, we would recommend a range of clean blades.
Yeah, so this one here, you just looked at the speed for hardwood is actually a Japan style blade. Now, all this means is the teeth are cut within the confines of the metal shaft of the jigsaw blade. So this will flush cut, or you can use it as you would do with a Japan saw to cut flush with the surface to remove whatever is protruding from that surface. There are slight downsides to that. You can get heat build up in the blade because the base blade is the same thickness as the teeth. However, with the basic for wood, obviously it's going to scream through the piece of wood a lot quicker, but that's mainly because the teeth jut out from the side of the blade. So it's a more aggressive. Anything with a Japan tooth on it, it's always going to be a finer quality cut.
Yes. Now, the two examples I've got here are clean and extra clean for wood. I've got hardwood, and I've also got one that I want to show the difference. I'm just going to wander over to Rebecca's camera for a second so she can get a close-up of these. Okay, you'll see there's two very different blade designs. You can see that you've got your, let's call it your normal style blade. Okay, this is extra clean for hardwood. We've actually got some different blades in our professional range. You can see that they are, these blades, these teeth cut up and down. Okay, but this is the one I really want to point out because this is sometimes people don't realise that we've got blades that are designed specifically for curve cutting or scroll cutting. Basically means that they are for curve cuts. And sometimes you'll find when you're working in your normal stiff blades that are solid, that sometimes they might bend, build up heat, burn, and then you get something called blade deflection where it's starting to bend too much.
Or for a thicker material, you might get undercut where the blade actually curves under the actual material, and then you don't get a perfectly parallel or perfectly 90-degree cut in a piece of timber.
Yeah, so for that reason, with these blades that are designed for curve cutting, you can actually get a much better finish and a lot more control. Because often what you have if you're using blades that aren't necessarily designed for curve cuts is you, how do I describe it often, you miss the apex.
Yes.
That you are trying to do a curve and instead the jigsaw wants to keep going straight and you miss your line if you're trying to cut on the line. So sometimes it's good to choose a blade specifically designed for scribing.
If you're not fully up to speed with using a jigsaw, and obviously that comes with time and experience, always cut on the outside of the line and leave yourself some material left over.
Easy to fix it.
It's better to leave some material on there than take too much off because you can't put it back afterwards. So, yeah.
Right,
All
okay.
good advice.
So, jigsaw would be a really great tool for doing some of those little finicky bits.
Yes.
Now, I think what we could do is maybe we could use the multi-tool just to show again that if you want to sand some of this material down here away, like having something with a delta shape or a small delta head, a triangular head like our multi-tool with the accessory, that might be a really good place to do it. So I'll grab the multi-tool.
I think you're going to do this bit.
Yeah, I'll do this. This is fine. Now, I may or may not do this with the dust extraction port, okay? Maybe I'll do it. Yeah, maybe do it. So we have the option here with our DIY multi-tool that we also have a little extraction hood here, which is actually designed to fit with this machine, or our Starlock machine.
Well, it fits with all of our Starlock machines, be they professional or DIY.
Right, so I've already got the abrasive material here. So I'm going to go over to Rebecca's canvas here, just to say, you can see that it's got a small little accessory holder there, and it comes with a little Allen key on the back. So up here, hex key. So a little hex key, and then that's used to remove the plate there. So that's all I'm doing. Okay, there's no spindle lock or anything like that, just unscrews.
Nope.
Okay.
Get rid of your jigsaw.
Okay, so I prepared this originally without the extraction port.
That extraction port is designed specifically for this attachment that we're going to be using. Obviously this lines up with all of the holes in the actual base plate here, so it's extracted through all of the holes in there. So again, you haven't put that on far enough.
Just going to put it
There you go.
I'm going to rotate it a little bit to make it easier. I'm going to go that way, so I'll have the hose up. There we go.
There you go.
Now,
you can put this any way round you like, this delta head. So if you wanted a more abrasives on surface onto the material, you can put it round that way to sand, or if you've got detailed sanding, you can turn it around that way. So basically, you can put the base anywhere you like.
I have 3 different grits here. I've got 60, 120, and I've got 240. Because I'm doing the initial stage, I'm going to go for an aggressive grit, so I'm going to go for the one that you can visibly see has got more of the grit. Okay, so that's the more coarse grit sandpaper, and that'll obviously visually be the most obvious thing, easier thing to see.
Yeah.
All right, now glasses.
It is the other way around, you're right.
Okay.
It's the other way around, I was about to turn around. Hang on, there you go. No, it worked that way.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to have a battery, just a little 2.5 will do me. While I'm here, I've also got our new battery, so I'll just go to the close-up cam. See, this is a nice little feature that maybe you're not aware of yet, which is we've got our new range of batteries that might be hard for you to see that, so I'm going to go use Rebecca's camera as well, just to show that we've got a little button here. That means you can now press that and see. Oh, there's too much light as always. Do it that way. You can press that, and then you should see we've got little LEDs. There's 4 green LEDs there that light up, or as you deplete. It's just a battery gauge, so now you can see how much charge is in your batteries without having to use the battery gauge that is often on the tool itself.
Yeah. You can check on the fly before you plug the
Yes.
battery in. So it's handy. And there you go.
Now, multi-tools, generally speaking, are not the most pleasant sounding machines, so I'm going to use my little earplugs anyway. So the sounding application is not particularly bad, but I'm going to put them in anyway.
This is a new dust extractor. It's very stiff.
Yeah, these are all friction fit, so you
go.
just need a little bit of pressure. Sometimes it helps to push and twist them on. Thanks, Dan.
Yeah.
All right, let's
There you
just
go.
make sure it all runs. Yep, I'm going to run it on a very high speed. Obviously, it's got a variable speed wheel on it.
Do you want to try it on this side here? Just because you can do that.
No, I'm going to do it this side just because it's easier for the camera to see. Just going to do this flat panel here
Okay.
to see how effective the multi-tool is. Dan, could you switch the extractor on for me, please?
It works a lot better like that, doesn't it?
Thank you.
There you go.
Now, I know that I was missing a small part.
You weren't approaching that at the right
optimal-
angle.
Not the right optimal angle, and again, it's one of those difficult things of trying to do it in camera. I'd rather want to stand here.
Well, you'd probably have it on its flat on the
Yeah.
table and be able to work on it flat. But saying that, you really got into that corner there.
Yeah, so I had to orientate the tool differently. The dust extraction hose, I probably would have rotated that a little bit out of the way. Maybe I would have had it here, but we've made it a little harder for ourselves by running the extraction port. But all I had to do was turn the tool around. I could also adjust the pad itself by removing it and rotating it around to get into where I need it to be.
Yeah.
So, but either
Just
way,
to
to illustrate the point, yep.
Just go to show that this table is actually a completely different colour underneath all of that dirt. So
Yes. So, good option here using a multi-tool with our Delta sanding pad. However, there's another thing I want to show before we finish for the day.
yes, there
Which
is.
is, if we are talking about working on, say, the more cylindrical items, like the legs themselves, then we have, I'd use that as like I don't know, for banisters and things like that.
Yes, this is for your curved surfaces. So all it is basically a piece of abrasive material, hook and loop fastening on the back, and hook and loop fastenings on the side of this plastic housing here. And this actually allows you to operate it around a surface here. And even by just using it by hand there, you can see it's removing material from all around the outside of that.
I was going to say, we could pop it on the desk.
Yeah.
Just to round off the live stream and have a little bit of sanding with a multi-tool for that application.
I think pop this off,
yeah.
And I'll put that accessory on and we'll have a go.
All right. So Ollie, while we're setting this up, because I don't like pregnant pauses, have we got any more questions before we do this last little demonstration and round off this first of many, hopefully, like DIY, like renovation style live streams? Actually, let us know in the chat.
Yeah.
Either live or after as a video.
Has to be said, I've actually quite enjoyed this. I think,
whether or not you'd like us to do more of these. Because often what we do is we just talk about tools and specs. Actually getting to use the tools in something a bit real is all quite a nice little change of pace.
Yes, it is a nice change.
So let us know if you want to see more of this style for DIY. And let us know what kinds of content you would like us to produce more of on the DIY live stream channel. Because that'll always be interesting because we're more than happy to make content that you actually want to see. Okay, right. I'm going to get the desk and put it into shot. Just behind you, Dan, so watch yourself.
Okay.
We've still got the leaves, we've still got the actual sides of the desk.
Yeah.
So that would be the same thing. We would want to sand those down, just like we've done here.
Yep. Like I said, I'm going to spend a little bit of time over the next maybe couple of weeks and finish off the table.
Well, it's not that it's going to take you weeks, it's just that we're a bit busy boys.
Yes, exactly.
We'll find what time we've got.
Free time, I will use popping this together. I'm going to take all the stuff off. Put that there.
Yeah. So Ollie, while we're just messing around, have we got any last comments or feedback?
Nothing just yet. I think everyone's just sat back enjoying, I would imagine, maybe tucking into some dinner or something. I know I'm feeling that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yep.
All right, so where's the machine?
Need a battery.
Oh, here's a battery, mate.
Lots of
So with multi-tools, you don't need a lot of runtime. A 2 or 2.5 amp hour batteries, often plenty. But if you ever need to step up in runtime, remember we do have much bigger double layer batteries. So they are 4, and I think we still do the 6 amp hour, is that right?
We do, yes. Bear in mind though, we've spent a lot of time trying to make the machine as light and as easy to use as possible. Popping a big battery on it kind of negates some of that development, makes the machine a little bit less comfortable. That's why we'd always recommend with these to up to a 2.5 amp hour battery.
With a 4 amp hour, that's the kind of thing I'd recommend if you're doing things that are a bit more energy intensive. So if you're doing things like maybe angle grinding, even though you might not be using it for a lot of time, they use up a lot more energy. However, I think the double layer batteries, the 4s and the 6s, that's ideal for using your, your DIY batteries for your lawn and garden products, your outdoor goods. So, 1 or 2 4 amp hour batteries on a lawnmower makes perfect sense. Lots of runtime, and you're wheeling it around, so the weight doesn't matter. Yeah. Okay. So just a little quick, little demo there, just showing.
Just going to go around here. Do you want to hold the dust extractor close to it?
Yeah, I
think that's probably the best.
Easier, yeah.
Best idea.
Okay. Anyway, then.
Yes. Wow. Well, that really is quite remarkable, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you would normally maybe just use a bit of sanding sheet, and obviously you do that with your hands. I think you could probably get into the nooks and crannies a little easier using the hand sanding pad, but this would definitely do the lion's share of it.
The bulk of the actual repair work. Plus, the fact these are actually rounded round here as well, so I could use them round here, round at the bottom of that as well. So, plenty of material I can use on this to do it.
Yeah, I was going to say it's a good job we also make. all the hand sanding foams as well.
Yes.
So
Did you want to get a shot of that, Rebecca? See if we can get close up on it.
He's very proud.
I'm very proud of it. It actually came up really well.
And remember, something that we pointed out earlier on in this live stream was the fact that we weren't pretending that we were going to do the entire project in one go. This is the biggest trick, especially when you're doing any kind of refurbished work, is not to rush. But particularly for sanding, Danny already mentioned the fact that you don't want to rush it. No. Because then often what you're going to do is you're going to be too aggressive, you're going to put too much pressure, you're going to move too quickly, and you're going to do a bad job. So with something like that, you can see how quickly you can remove quite a lot of material without really trying. And that's the big thing. We could be more aggressive, but you're more likely to wear the abrasive material.
How long was that? 20 seconds? And it's got all of that down on one side. Another 20 seconds on that, and the line share that's done.
And I would also 120. That's not even aggressive.
I would use a coarser material on that to start off with. So that we haven't even started with a coarse grit on that particular material here.
And that's fine. If you get really sad and experienced like Danny and I, you can look at that and go, yeah, I would expect that to have gone faster. But for 120 grit, that's pretty good already. Now,
I might leave these colour and then just sand the centre bits. That's quite nice.
Very nice. Right, okay, right. Now, I think we've made a promise that maybe in the next DIY Live, Dan has made the promise there, that we are going to show the finished article.
Yes.
Better be good now, mate.
So maybe a video in between the next live stream, or maybe on the next live stream.
Just to prove that we actually didn't just chuck it in a skip after.
Yes.
I think we made the right choice. It was a nice table, but I really like the fact that we've removed one side. I think that's good. I think we need to route the edges here. Yeah. Give that a nice little round over bit.
I'm thinking if I took another maybe 2 or 3 millimetres off there, actually I'd take it down to a solid piece of wood there. So again, yeah.
That's right. Yes. Okay. Well, hopefully you've enjoyed this first of hopefully many new styles of DIY live streams. A bit more hands-on, a bit more project focused. Yes. If you did enjoy this, feel free to obviously like and subscribe and pop your comments down below if you actually did want to see more of this kind of content. Don't know, Danny, anything else from yourself?
No, I think we've covered pretty much everything there with your like and subscribe comments. I think we're good.
All right, well, hope you enjoyed it. I've been Chris.
And I've been Danny.
See you later.
Yeah.